Hello and welcome to this YouTube live stream from the Leeds Digital Festival here at the University of Leeds. My name is Jane Lund and we're here today to talk about how to get started in a career in the digital and technical industries via a fantastic programme that we're really pleased to be a part of called Kickstart. I'm here today with a couple of digital inspirators, Amy Brereton and Rafael Papallas, and I'll introduce you to them shortly. But first, I'll outline the plan for the show and how you can get involved. So we'll start by telling you a little bit about the Kickstart programme and the benefits that you can gain from being a part of it. And then we'll have a chat with Amy and Rafael about how they got started in the tech world and what advice they can share with you. And ask them to talk us through some of the courses that you can access online for free. As this is a YouTube live stream, please ask questions. This is a great opportunity to quiz our experts about working in the digital world, or indeed ask questions about the Kickstart programme itself. So please submit your questions in the live chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can towards the end of the show. So what is Kickstart? Kickstart is aimed at filling the skills gap in the technical and digital industries. There are loads of great digital jobs out there, and now is the time to think about skilling up and landing yourself an exciting career. So if you're between 16 and 25 years old, you could land yourself a scholarship and access to a pile of online courses on digital and career development skills for free. Take a look at this.
Want next level pay? Get next level skills.
Jobs with digital skills pay better, much better.
True fact. So where do you start?
Kickstart. It's the free course that's flexible.
Kickstart takes your digital skills to the next level.
And there are thousands of jobs going.
In fashion, finance, fitness, the arts and activism.
Tech itself.
Basically anything you want to do.
They all need digital skills.
And Kickstart could help you get
The start that you want.
Book your free course now.
So you should be able to see the links to the courses below and we'll put them in the chat too. And I really recommend you explore the programmes and see what skills you could develop. Drop any questions you have for us in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm delighted to introduce Amy and Rafael, our two tech inspirators, who are going to talk to us about their careers in the tech industry, how they got started, and offer you some tips. So welcome both. Rafael, I'm going to turn to you. Tell us a bit about your career. Where did you start in the tech industry?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Rafael. I have a computer science background. I completed a degree in computer science with a year in industry. So what that means is that during the second year of my studies as an undergraduate, I spent a year working in industry as a software developer. Then I came back to the university to finish my degree. Then I decided to do a PhD in robotics, and today I'm a researcher in robotics, writing code for robots.
That sounds pretty exciting. So why should young people think about a career in tech, do you think?
Sure. First of all, I think a career choice is quite an important choice to make because it's going to stick with you for some time. Of course, people do change careers. However, I think you have to choose something that is exciting and fulfilling. And I think a career in tech checks those two requirements, especially since technology is everywhere nowadays. There are plenty of job opportunities out there. So choosing a career in tech will kind of guarantee employment for life.
And so what kind of skills do you think people need to develop? What are the most important skills that you think they need to develop?
Sure. In terms of technical skills, those could vary depending on the industry and the specific job. However, I think that programming is a very important skill for everyone. So I would suggest that everyone gets familiar with programming because it's the language that we use to communicate with machines. If you want to find more specific technical skills, I would suggest that students go and check specific job posts and look at the description so they can see those essential skills that are listed there. So these are the skills that you need to build. Now, in terms of the soft skills, I think that the ability to learn, constantly learning is quite important because especially in computing, things change rapidly. So what you study at the university or during a course will change in the future, most likely. So the ability to keep learning is quite important. Finally, communication and teamwork. We are in a world where things are quite complex. All of those systems that are being built are quite complex. There is no single person that knows everything. So within a team, you have to be able to work and communicate effectively.
So it's a real mixture of technical and soft skills, as you say. So tell me, do you enjoy working with tech? What do you like about it?
Sure, of course. I guess the story, how it got started, when I was 14 years old, we got the first computer at home. Back then, it wasn't the norm to have computers at home. We didn't even have smartphones. So having that machine at home was quite a surreal experience. And I remember I was all over it. And I got started back then. And I remember my first kind of individual project was a small calculator. And I remember that feeling when I pressed the button and I could see that window popping up. It was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of excitement and pride about that. So up till to this day, I have the same feeling whenever I complete a project. And nowadays, we work with robots, which is quite a complicated industry. And I do get the same feeling every time.
Oh, I love the fact that early excitement hasn't gone away for you, Rafael. It's still very much there. Amy, over to you now. So tell me, do you enjoy working with tech?
Oh, definitely. I have a pretty similar story really to Rafael in that respect, in that when we first got a computer and when we first got the internet when I was a kid, again, before it was sort of standard to have that, I really wanted to learn how to make a website. That was my goal. I wanted to be able to put what I wanted on the internet, show it to my friends, be able to show it off to different people. And that became a real sort of fun thing for me. I got a book out of the library, learned how to write my first bits of code and really, really loved it. And I still get that satisfaction of solving a problem and researching how to do something and being able to build something I can show to people and that people can, really see and interact with and get involved with. So yeah, I definitely still really love working with technology.
Oh, it's really inspiring to hear. So, Amy, can you tell us firstly a bit about your career and how you got started?
Of course. So, again, pretty similar to Rafael, I did a computer science degree. I then left that and went on to be an agile software development project manager, which was really, really fun. And during that, I was doing a little bit of teaching on the side as part of my role. And I enjoyed that lots and lots. And I thought, well, I'd love to sort of share my enthusiasm for tech with more people. I trained to be a teacher and I spent 5 years working as a teacher in secondary school. So I was teaching GCSE and A-level computer science at that time. And then a job popped up at university. I thought, I could try teaching at a different level. And here I am now, a teaching fellow working across undergraduate computer science at the University of Leeds.
And so, having worked with young people as a teacher, what did you notice about young people's attitude to digital skills?
Young people are really surrounded by technology in a way that we weren't as children. And I think that sometimes they find it a little bit scary. It seems really difficult to program. It seems really difficult to develop these skills. But I just want to say that it really isn't. There's so much creativity and problem solving in digital skills. It's not just about being fantastic at maths. I used to hear a lot when I was teaching, I'm not good at maths, I can't do this. You don't need to be good at maths. You don't really need to be good at any other subject. You can apply those skills, that creativity, that problem solving into digital skills.
And we know that women are underrepresented in the workforce in the tech industries, Amy. What's it like as a woman working in that world?
Yeah, so I will definitely say that you'll notice it when you go in, when you go from education where it's much more even, 50-50 split, into tech. It's definitely noticeable. I mean, when I started my first job, there were 2 women in the whole company, but it's changing all the time, Since then, 10, 15 years ago, now there's loads more women and you see more and more women, more non-binary people from a really diverse range of backgrounds and experiences going into tech. And that is amazing to see. So I would say you'll notice it. It might feel a bit strange at first, but it's changing all the time. And, you've got to be the change that you want to see, really.
Absolutely. It's really good to know it's becoming more diverse. So thinking about the personal skills and aptitudes that people need to bring, could you speak to that a little bit? Absolutely.
So I would definitely agree with Rafael that team working is incredibly important. I think we often have this image of programmers as sitting alone with their hoodies on, tapping away, and it's just not true. You're always working with other people. especially when you first start out, you'll be working as a pair programmer. So you'll be programming with somebody else sitting right next to them, working on the same computer. You'll have a mentor of some sort. You'll always be collaborating with people in the office, in different offices around the world as well. So being able to work with lots of different people is so important. I would say another key skill you will develop as you learn to program especially is resilience. You know, your code's not going to work perfectly first time, but being able to take feedback and to use that feedback to go, okay, next time I'll do this. And also being able to be reflective and see the good stuff you've done as well, you know, not just forgetting you've just finished an amazing project while you're straight onto the next one, being able to take away from that and being able to use that in your next project as well.
Great stuff. So resilience, being able to be reflective and to keep learning. So thank you so much, Amy and Rafael. We're going to come back to them very shortly. Here at the University of Leeds, we've developed a number of new courses as part of the Kickstart project. So we're going to start asking you a few questions about those. And first of all, I'm going to come to you, Rafael. You've developed a course for us called An Introduction to Programming with Python. Now, for the uninitiated, what is programming?
Sure. So programming is the process by which you create computer programs, and computer programs are essentially a sequence of very precise instructions for the computer to execute. I like to use the analogy of a cooking recipe to explain programming. So if we take the example of a cooking recipe, that cooking recipe is the computer program that explains to someone how to create that specific dish. The process of writing that recipe is what we call programming. And the chef who wrote the cooking recipe is the computer programmer or the software engineer.
That's a really nice analogy. Can I ask you just one quick thing to clear something up for me? What's the difference between programming and coding?
Sure. I think programming and coding in general in industry is considered kind of the same thing. But technically, there is a small difference in that coding is about taking something very specific from a human readable language and converting that to a computer program. Whereas programming is more about the general process of creating computer programs, which could involve designing solutions, algorithmic design. It could also involve testing and debugging, which is the process by which you fix problems in a code. So coding is a subset of programming, let's say, but people use that both to mean the same thing.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for clearing that up for me. So your course is about learning Python, the language called Python. Can you tell me what has been built using Python that I might know about?
Sure. Plenty of things. However, we should make clear that nowadays, because those systems are quite complex, they tend to have different components written in different programming languages. So we can't just say this product is written entirely in Python. However, the platform that we use right now to stream this event, YouTube, is partly written in Python. So parts of YouTube are written in Python. And also Instagram, which is used by 2 billion users worldwide, is the backend of Instagram is also written in Python.
Great, thank you for that. Now, there are lots of programming languages, as you mentioned. So why should someone learn Python in particular?
Sure. First of all, Python is a very friendly programming language. Also is very intuitive, and people who use Python to do programming tend to be very productive. That's one thing. The other thing is that Python is very popular nowadays. It has a huge library of different packages that you can use, which means that you can build complex stuff quite easily. On top of that, Python is used in many different industries. For example, machine learning is using Python quite a lot. Most of the frameworks out there for machine learning are using Python. I come from a robotics background as well, so we do use Python there too, building intelligent systems using Python. And cloud computing, which is quite a remarkable technology nowadays that have changed the landscape in computing, enabling small companies to build complex and robust systems. Python is used there too. So plenty of industries are using Python, which means that if you learn that easy to learn programming language, you will open many career doors.
All right, so it's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Rafael. Amy, over to you. Now, you've developed a course for us called Working with Version Control. What's that? What's version control?
So when you start out as a programmer, you'll go into a company and you'll be working on a bit of code. You're not going to be the only person working on that code. There might be 10 different people, and they might be in different countries, different offices, working from home all over the place. So to work together, it'd be really difficult to write your code separately and sort of glue it all together at the end. So instead, you have one place where you store that code and everyone can access it. And that is through version control. It also means that you can back up all the versions and you can split off into different versions. So for example, people watching might have used Google Docs, where you can see who edited the document and when they edit it, and you can go back to previous versions. It's kind of the same thing, but for code.
Right, okay. And so in your course, you talk a lot about a tool called GitHub. Can you tell us a bit about that? Is it widely used in the industry?
Yes, so GitHub is one of a number of different platforms that use the version control thing called Git, and GitHub's probably the most popular one. And the main reason that it's really, really popular is because it is kind of the home of a lot of open source software, so freely available software. And what that means is that if you want a program that can do something very specific, if you want a library that can do something, if you're programming in Python and you want to use a library, you can go and find it on GitHub, and someone out there will have done something that you can use. So there's loads and loads and loads of projects out there that not only you can use and look at, but you can also contribute to. You can either make your own version of them, or you can work on their version. They might have some problems for you to fix. So it's a really, really popular, it's kind of like a social media almost for developers.
I love that. So thinking about your course then, Amy, what sort of skills do people need to bring to the course?
To be honest, I would say you don't need to bring any particular skills to the course. I've tried to design it so that you don't need to be able to program. You don't ever have to have used version control before. You don't even have to have heard of version control. You know, it's there for beginners to get an idea of the different tools available to them. So I would just say, bring enthusiasm, and that's all you're going to need.
Excellent. And once they've done the course, Amy, what is it a course? What's the stepping stone into?
So it's a stepping stone into a few things. Obviously, it's a way to get into that open source community and to understand how to collaborate with other people, which will be really, really useful. But it's also really important when you go into work. So development's really competitive, right? There's a lot of people who are learning to program and might all be going for the same jobs. Being able to program isn't always enough. You also need to be able to sort of show that you've understood the different tools available. So it's a really good way of sort of just edging yourself further in that competition and showing that you know the different tools and you already know how to use them.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for those insights, you two. Now, we're going to see a clip now of Amy talking to an expert from the software development field. So take a look at this.
Can you tell us a bit about how you developed yourself into a software developer? What did you do to train up as a software developer?
So the most important thing that I did was making sure that I had the basics of coding sorted out. So all the fundamentals, like understanding how to actually use a coding language. The next step was to go off and find job descriptions for junior developer jobs in my area and find out what technologies they were looking for, and then go off and learn those. So there was a lot of time spent on YouTube watching free courses, a lot of time spent on GitHub making my own projects and just trying to see how those worked. But I think the biggest thing that really set me apart from others applying for these junior positions was I took the time to learn how the version management software Git works. And that immediately made employers think, okay, this guy's actually putting the effort in. He really wants to be a professional developer. Let's give him a chance and see if he can hit the ground running.
Hello and welcome back. So we're talking to Rafael and Amy, our expert inspirators, about getting into careers in the technical world. And so, Rafael, if I'm watching this out there and was interested in getting into the digital industries, apart from our courses, obviously, what could I do?
Sure. As you said, the courses and getting learning the fundamentals is quite important. But what I would advise to students is that they should find ways to distinguish themselves from the crowd. Everyone can do a course, everyone can read a book, everyone can get a degree. What matters is what you do with that knowledge. So what I will encourage students to do is to go and build some real world projects and put them out there on GitHub, as Amy said. And also contributing to open source is also a great way to get started. So I would advise students to go and find some project on GitHub that they find exciting and start contributing to it.
Great. So learn some skills and just get out there and have a go. That's great. Really good to see that we're getting some questions coming through. But Amy, before we go to those questions, what are some of the other ways someone could get into a career in tech? How would we find out?
So a really good way at the moment is to look for apprenticeships, software development apprenticeships. These are sort of a great way for anyone who just wants to kind of hit the ground running, doesn't want to do a load of courses first, wants to learn on the job. There are lots and lots of these available. It's becoming a really popular way to get people into jobs and get people upskilling. One of the best places to look for these is actually the civil service. They offer some really fantastic ones. They're well paid as well, which is always a bonus for people moving careers. But the civil service jobs website has loads, and you can see them for all the different departments. So if you're a historian, or if you worked in a library, or if you have a special interest in some field, there will be some job available on there that might fit you. So it's definitely worth looking at. There are ones available in the private sector as well. So looking on normal job sites like Indeed can be a good idea as well. They're a really good way of getting into it and being trained on the job.
Some great tips there. So now we're going to go over to some questions that we've had through the YouTube channel. So first from Mary, and this one's for you, I think, Rafael. So what should I do if I don't have a degree? Can I still get into tech?
Definitely. People nowadays can find courses online and books, and they can study those things. And as we said before, trying to build stuff and put them on GitHub, that doesn't need you to study something. However, we should not underestimate the power of a degree and what you can learn out of that. But definitely you can get started without a degree.
Great, thank you very much. Amy, here's one for you that's come through. So what is your advice for career switchers?
Oh, so I guess my advice would be that there's a lot of different ways into tech that you can look at. So thinking about which way you want to do it. I mean, as I said, I really, really advise looking at apprenticeships because they're a fantastic way, especially, if you've got a mortgage that you need to pay, you can't take 6 months out of work to go and do a course. You really need to be sort of continuing to make money, continuing to have a job. So apprenticeships can be a really, really good way. But there are also things like evening classes. So if you're just thinking about moving careers, it can be a really good idea to look at evening classes in your area. Look at your local university and college. They might offer you a way of doing an A-level, or, if you really want to go for it, a master's degree part-time. There are lots and lots of different ways. But I would say, I switched careers from the tech industry into teaching, and that was, for me, a really, really great thing to do. So it's definitely something that can change your life in a really positive way. So if you're thinking about it, I would say do the research and go for it. It can feel really, really scary to change jobs. You can feel like, oh my God, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the bills? But if you're thinking about it, then it's probably time to go for it, to be honest. So
and it's never too late, right?
Yeah, you're never too late to go for it. There are people going in, in their 40s and 50s to tech now. So it's a great thing to do. And, it'll probably be a lot of fun. It'll feel scary, but it'll definitely be worth it in the end.
Thanks, Amy. Rafael, I've got one for you here from Finn. Is there anything you wish you'd known earlier in your career?
That's a good one. I guess the fact that you will never be perfect in what you do. So that should not stop you from getting things out. So what I would advise to students is don't aim for perfection. Just try to get something done, get it out, get feedback, and improve on it. If we judge from how big companies do their business, they release the first iteration of any product, and then if you compare that with the 10th iteration of a product, they're miles away, but they deliver that first iteration first, right?
Yeah, so don't let perfection get in the way. I think that's good advice for most of us, right? So thanks for that, Rafael. Here's another one for you, Rafael. This is coming in from Sherry. When joining boot camps, they paint a picture of getting a job as soon as you have the skill, i.e. coding. What can one do to gain an entry-level junior role? Do you have any tips about that?
Sure. I think Starting some of these courses and getting some fundamental technical skills like programming. And again, just trying to build stuff for yourself and just put them out there. If you go through this process, I think it will be quite easy.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you. Amy, so here's a great question from Susan. Are tech jobs just going to be replaced by AI?
That is a fantastic question. It's something that a lot of people are talking about at the moment. So I would say definitely not at the moment. So when we talk about AI at the moment, we're talking about large language models, right? We're talking about things like ChatGPT. And what they do is they take text from all over the place. They have a big body of text. And when you ask it a question, it understands what you want and it goes and it finds bits and it puts them together in a way that makes sense. And it can create code. So things like ChatGPT can create code, but that code is not always functional, to be honest. It's not good at making big bits of code and it lacks the creativity. It can't make new stuff. It could only reuse old stuff. So a programmer can create new algorithms. They can think of new ways of doing things. A large language model, AI, can't at the moment. There's also another issue, which is really what's stopping a lot of jobs being taken over by AI at the moment, which is that right now, whenever you create code using a large language model, you can't own the copyright. So, for example, if I were to write some code, I would own the copyright. I would own the intellectual property. Can't do that for large language models because you didn't make it. So companies are not keen at all to be using those to generate code because they can't own it, they can't claim it, they can't sell it. So I think it's going to be a very, very long way and a lot more developments before we need to worry.
Okay, I think we'll have time for 2 more questions if that's okay, guys. So this is a nice question as well. Isn't the market oversaturated at the moment? It's very difficult to get into tech. What life hacks would you advise? Amy, go for it.
Happy to hop in on this one. So parts of the tech industry are very oversaturated, I would say. If you're thinking about becoming a web developer, you're going to have a much, much harder time than if you're thinking about becoming a C developer, for example. So different technologies come in and out of fashion. And there are a lot more jobs with older technologies, which are sometimes a bit harder to find resources to learn, I would say. But really, at the end of the day, what you need to do is to prove that you've got a real interest, to show that you can use different tools. So being able to use things like GitHub, being able to use things like modern IDEs, which you can also find out more about in Kickstart, is a good way of getting yourself ahead because there are lots of courses out there and they'll show you how to do some basic programming. But a lot of them are focused around 1 or 2 languages. So web development's very popular, Python's very popular. Think about after you've done your first initial course, learning your first language, looking at where the jobs are and using that to point you in what you're going to learn next. So whether that's a particular language you're going to learn or whether that's a particular framework that you're going to learn, look for what's out there and kind of aim the trajectory of your learning around that would be my sort of big tip.
That's great advice. So I think we've got time for just 1 more. We've got lots of questions coming in. I'm sorry we're not going to get around to answering everybody's question, but I'm just going to take this one last question for Rafael, which is from Rachel. Do you need to be good at maths to do these courses?
These specific courses, no. Of course, maths are quite important in general, but when it comes to programming especially, unless you do something that is math heavy, you don't need to know much about maths. But yeah, the specific courses that we designed for this program, they are tailored to people that have very basic knowledge of maths or programming in general.
Thanks very much. There you go, Rachel. Don't let that stop you. Okay, so that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much to Amy and Rafael for joining us today. And we've been live at the Leeds Digital Festival at the University of Leeds, and we hope you've enjoyed the show. But more importantly, we hope you will click those links and start finding out about how you can kickstart your career in tech. See what I did there? Links are on the screen and in the chat, but don't think about it anymore. Come and find out more. The tech world needs you. Thanks for watching.